Thank you, Bill, and a special shout out to Bill because he was the one who introduced me to the Legal Momentum family, and I thank him for that. Next up, I'd like you all to please welcome to the stage our next presenter, Sandra Leung. She is an Executive Vice President and General Counsel of Bristol-Myers Squibb, where she's seen as the conscience of the company. Prior to joining the pharmaceutical maker in 1992, she was a prosecutor in the Manhattan DA office. We're pleased to have her with us today. Sandy, welcome.
Thank you, Scarlett, for that introduction, and I want to congratulate the other Aiming High honorees, Sari and Michael. I am really excited and honored to introduce our next honoree, CEO of Deloitte and my friend, Cathy Engelbert. Cathy has really illustrated what it means to aim high. She started working at Deloitte right out of college, and in her more than 30 years with the firm, she has served several of Deloitte's largest and most complex global clients, including my company, Bristol-Myers Squibb, where Cathy and I first met. It was 2003, and at that time, we were developing Sarbanes-Oxley controls for our treasury function and other functions in the company. We needed help, desperately some might say, with complying with this new regulation, and lucky for us, Deloitte, led by Cathy, were our consultants. I was immediately drawn to Cathy's clear, no-nonsense, but extraordinarily warm style, as well as her fierce intellect. She was the firm's expert on derivatives, a topic I confessed I still don't fully understand. Back then, we were often the only two women in the room, and I'm happy to say that today the gender ratio has improved. A few years later, Cathy became our company's independent accounting firm, and Cathy was clearly a key factor in our board's decision to move to Deloitte. Cathy eventually became the lead audit partner at Bristol-Myers Squibb, and with all due respect to all the other lead partners we've had at the company and currently have, I know some of you might be in the audience, Cathy was the best and my favorite. We bonded over the years about raising children while working more than full-time jobs, discussing family health issues, and how to create a work environment where people feel empowered to bring their whole selves to work every day. In 2015, Cathy made history, breaking the glass ceiling and becoming the first female CEO of one of the Big Four accounting firms, and today leads Deloitte with more than 90,000 employees in nearly 100 cities. And Cathy aimed high and launched an industry-leading extended family paid leave program. It's not just leading in the industry, but I think leading in all companies. And they offered 16 weeks of paid family leave to men and women alike at Deloitte to care for their families, whether it's a newborn child, an older dependent, or even elderly parents. She's been recognized for all of her accomplishments. She's been listed as one of Fortune's most powerful women, Crane's 50 most powerful women in New York, all those lists, and she was even in Working Mother magazine's 50 most powerful moms. This isn't Cathy's first time on the Legal Momentum stage. In 2016, she stood where I am now and presented the Aim High Awards for the first Man of Distinction Award to her mentor, friend, and former Deloitte chairman and CEO, Mike Cook, who is here with us today. Today, Cathy adds the Aiming High Award to her list of many recognitions. Aiming high indeed. Congratulations, Cathy.
Thank you, Sandy. That is an amazingly kind introduction, and for your leadership and friendship through good times and bad over the years. So I really appreciate that. And I am totally humbled and honored to be here to accept this award, especially in such great company. I would also like to recognize my fellow honorees, Sari and Bill. And sorry I did not bring my mother. She's going to be very mad at me. She just retired after 61 years at the same company at 81 years of age. So she is really going to be mad at me that she's not here. But a special thanks to my Deloitte partners and professionals who are here today, the law firms that support us all year round for sharing this experience. A special shout out to Brad Karp. Brad, it was the only day it hasn't rained in the last 3 months that we played golf. Sandy, again, thank you for your leadership. Cindy Fornelli, who's here today, Henry Haddad, Eileen Lang, Kathy Wild here in the front. And one of my sponsors at Deloitte, who actually had a vision that I could be CEO when I didn't. Retired partner Andy McMaster. Andy, thanks for being here. So as Sandy yes, thank you. As Sandy mentioned, I was up here 2 years ago introducing Mike Cook, and Mike was supposed to be here, but had an issue he couldn't attend, and he was the first ever Man of Distinction Award. And while Mike couldn't be here today, he has been instrumental in opening doors for women business leaders, not just in our firm, but beyond. And his pioneering initiatives back in 1992, when it wasn't popular, diversity, inclusion wasn't even invented yet, no one was really talking about diversity, was one of the reasons his pioneering influence that I'm up here today. And as I prepared my remarks for today's luncheon, I thought back to growing up as one of 8 children, some great advice my mom shared at a very young age, and this is what she said: you can do anything the boys can do. After all, you're growing up right alongside 5 of them. So that's right, I have 5 brothers. I also had 2 sisters. But growing up, my mom would send us outside in the backyard to play sports together. It wasn't ever boys versus girls. It was 2 teams playing against one another, fiercely competitive. But she taught us to be tough, to never give up, and reminded us that we are all equal. And this is in the 60s and 70s. So I can't thank her enough for instilling that mindset in me at an early age. It's something that carried me through college, where I went, it was 4 male to 1 female, my career, and something I hope to pass down to my 2 children. I have a daughter entering her senior year at Villanova, and a son who's starting his senior year in high school this fall. And as a parent of 2 kids who will soon be entering the workforce, I sit there and think often about what opportunities will they have? What challenges will they be faced with? So my daughter actually just started an internship here in New York City on Monday of this week. Her first text to me, because you know it's always by text, there's no other communication, her first text was, "Mom, checking in at the building, and there are 5 women and like 80 men." And I wanted to reply. I was like typing, "Welcome to the world." But it really hit me. Have things really changed since 32 years ago when I showed up at that building for my first job? Have things really changed? It really hit me when she sent me that message. So obviously we have a lot more women in the workforce. It is time that my position and the position of other female leaders are the norm rather than the novelty. But there is progress. When I visit our Deloitte clients, I am incredibly impressed with the rising generation of women leaders at the senior VP, at the C-suite, at the general counsel level, the CFO. I am optimistic about the future, that it will be better. And as business leaders, we have to ask ourselves, are we reducing the barriers that block women from reaching their full potential and raising the tides of opportunity for all? I just became the chair of the Catalyst Board, and we have workplaces that work for women because those workplaces that work for women work for men and women. And I think we'll all be more successful. So, and while efforts are in place, the question, especially within our organization, continues to be, what more can we do? This room, 700-ish people, we have 5 generations in our workforce now. At Deloitte, we're over 70% millennial. With a very diverse workforce, we have to get this right. We have the opportunity to bring about powerful changes. To move the needle, we have to collaborate across all of our organization. Obviously, legal momentum and their focus on education is so important, and I thank them for everything they're doing around education, around discrimination in education, sexual harassment and violence in schools. This is so important that we all create environments where all of our people can thrive. At Deloitte, Sandy mentioned our our 16-week paid family leave. We've actually had that in place for 18 months. We have 5,000 Deloitte families that have taken advantage of family leave. And the positive stories about the firm being there in their time of need, whether it's to care for a sick child, a dying parent, or a new baby, inspiring stories around. And as a good accounting and consulting firm, we can sit there and say that it has a cost, but it has a huge benefit in advancing men and women in our workplace in order to make a real impact. We also put in something recently. We're not doing away with our business resource or employee resource councils. We put in inclusion councils. Very important, because our people are looking not to be identified by one characteristic, but to feel included based on all of their characteristics, including their diversity of thought. So recently, Harvard Business Review reported that managers use more positive words to describe men in performance reviews and more negative ones to describe women. I did not know that. It actually makes a little sense to me. We have to really look at unconscious bias in all of our systems and processes, and it amazes me how much of that is out there. We've run some unconscious bias trainings with my executive team and others, and it really is something, if you're not looking at it, a clear understanding of those biases that exist, I think will be very important. So the work of Legal Momentum and everyone here today, I think, does make me optimistic, but it's critical to hear other stories, because no two paths look exactly the same. And when I was elected CEO of Deloitte, while it was a big deal to me personally, I didn't think others would think it was a big deal. After all, it was 2015, and I had been with the firm for almost 30 years. But it was a big deal. Why? Because I was a woman. So I'm honored to, again, share my story with you today. Because even if your story may not seem like a big deal to you, it may be just what someone around you needs to hear as they think about their own path in this exponentially changing world. Maybe that person's your daughter or son, maybe it's a nephew, niece, brother, sister, or maybe it's a stranger listening from the other side of the room. So let me leave you with this. It's graduation time of year, one of my favorites, and recently Abby Wambach, who's U.S. women's national soccer team icon, gave an inspiring commencement speech at Barnard in New York City. One of her messages was around how women must champion one another. She said that women have been pitted against each other since the beginning of time for that one seat at the table. Scarcity has been planted inside of us and among us. This scarcity is not our fault, but it is our problem. And it is within our power to create abundance for women where scarcity used to live. Those words really resonated with me. We are here today to celebrate the power of women. We must solve this together. Thank you again for honoring me and for this year's Aiming High Award. Thank you.